On this week's Political Figure episode, we've got Ralph Nader and a crunchy granola aunt package. Jill Stein. Jill Stein was born May 14th, 1950 in Chicago, Illinois. She was raised in a Reformed Jewish household and was pretty bright. Bright enough to get into Harvard. There she studied anthropology, psychology, and sociology, graduating magna cum laude, and then went on to Harvard Medical. She then went on to practice internal medicine for 25 years and also taught internal medicine at Harvard. Over the quarter century that she was practicing medicine, she became increasingly concerned about the connection between pollution and people's health. Apparently, according to doctors, polluted, toxic environments is bad for your health. Who knew? And in the late 90s, she began her transformation into the Jill Stein we all know today. She started serving on the board of Physicians for Social Responsibility, protesting Massachusetts coal plants, and publishing reports about pollution on public health. As a result of her efforts, she started getting increased public attention and receiving awards from various environmental and health organizations. And then according to her, when the Democratic Party killed campaign finance reform in Massachusetts, she left in protest. The party, not the state. In 2002, she attempted to run for the governor of Massachusetts as a Green Rainbow Party candidate, and I was really disappointed to find out that that is not nearly as gay as it sounds. Like, when I first heard that Massachusetts Green Party was the Green Rainbow Party, I was really picturing, like, Green New Deal, but executed like it was on an episode of Queer Eye. This week on Green Rainbow, we're gonna spruce up this Iowa pasture with a couple wind turbines right over here, and maybe dress up this hillside with a spattering of solar panels, and really tie the whole thing together by getting it railed with some public transportation. Unfortunately, the Rainbow Party that merged with the Massachusetts Green Party was just more about civil rights as a whole, not even specifically LGBTQ rights, which is cool, you know, that's great that they're about that, but it's a lot less fun than what I was picturing. But yeah, she didn't win governor because, you know, Mitt Romney did, and we are stuck in a two-party hellscape. She did get third out of 5 candidates, but that only accounted for 3.5% of the vote that she got, so I mean, good, but not great. She then tried her hand at state representative, and she actually beat the Republican candidate, but didn't even come close to the Democratic incumbent because that's how congressional districts work. She then set her sights a bit more realistically and ran for Lexington Town Meeting, which is a hyper-localized form of legislative government, and she actually won one of the 8 seats and was reelected in 2008. And learning that she needed to set realistic goals on offices to run for and build her way up from there, she set her goals on her next political campaign for president. Because, you know, after a couple terms in town meeting, the next logical step is obviously the highest electable office in the country. Following in Ralph Nader's footsteps, she ran on the Green Party ticket, and while doing that, was also doing all of the activisms. She got arrested during her campaign for participating in a sit-in against housing foreclosures, and then she got arrested again for showing up to the presidential debate she wasn't invited to protest them excluding smaller parties. And then she was arrested again for bringing food and supplies to Keystone XL pipeline protesters in Texas. Her main platform was obviously the Green New Deal, but she also advocated for banking reform, campaign finance reform, tuition-free higher education, Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, ranked choice voting, industry nationalization. She's also really against nuclear energy because, you know, again, crunchy granola Ralph Nader, but, you know, by and large, mostly popular progressive policies. She said her opponents, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, were basically the same thing, which, you know, she sort of had a point. And with like 0.5% of the vote, she lost. So in 2016, she runs again, and she releases her financial statements because, you know, she's not Donald Trump. And that revealed she had $8.5 million in investments. A lot of that was in mutual or index funds, and a lot of those were invested in things like energy companies and defense contractors and tobacco companies and pharmaceutical companies and financial institutions, which wasn't a great look considering her entire identity revolves around regulating or eliminating those industries. To be fair, I do not think that this was a conscious decision on her part. She probably gave her money to a financial company, financial advisors, and then they put it in index funds, and the index funds are managed by other financial advisors that just put it in the stuff that's most likely going to make the most money. That said, you are absolutely capable of, when you invest your money, saying that I don't want my money going into these companies or these industries. And also, when one of your big selling points is you want to reform Wall Street, maybe putting $8.5 million into Wall Street isn't the best for optics. But I'm no campaign manager, so what do I know? She also got arrested less in this campaign. This time she only got 1 warrant issued for her arrest in North Dakota because she spray painted a bulldozer protesting the Keystone XL pipeline again. And then so she went to court for it, and she's like, yeah, I did that shit. And they're like, okay, here's 6 months probation, I guess. On the campaign trail, she said she thought that in the long run, Trump would be less damaging than Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton could actually get shit done and Trump's an incompetent moron. And I've never seen a statement be so right and and yet so wrong. She did say that at least with Hillary, we've got some transparency because she did expose her financial documents and we knew who she was tied to, where Trump still hasn't, and that obviously was worrisome. She said he's a magnet for crime and extortion. Also, during this time, it came to light that some of her views on national security and foreign policy are a little sketch. Like, she's definitely anti-war, anti-imperialism, which, you know, is cool. I think we could use some more of that in Washington. She was against the invasion of Iraq. She was also in favor of pulling troops out of Afghanistan before we were there for, you know, 20 fucking years. She was calling Netanyahu a war criminal before it was cool and says Israel should get the fuck out of the West Bank. But she was also super in favor of Brexit, and for reasons that Brexit didn't really include, because she's like, you know, the EU is like super corporate capitalist or something. So good for Britain not being a part of that, even though they're pretty corporate and capitalist too. Still, Britain mostly did the Brexit because they didn't want to keep taking in all the refugees from all of the places that they had previously fucked up over their hundreds of years of colonialization. And like, she's also like weirdly soft on her stance towards Russia and Putin. She's like, yeah, Putin's kind of an asshole and committing, you know, war crimes and human rights violations and atrocities, but you know, so are we. So who are we to judge? And I feel like downplaying all the bad shit Russia's doing because we also do bad shit is just not the greatest perspective. Also, she's not like a huge fan of NATO and not really like in support of Ukraine. She's definitely peddled the line that, you know, Ukraine was historically part of Russia, so I guess it could sort of still be theirs if Russia wanted it, type of thing, and that's a really weird fucking position to take. In that vein, she thinks we should reevaluate our position in NATO and be neutral with Ukraine and not arm them. She's also peddled the bullshit about ex-Nazis and ultra-nationalists being the ones in power in Ukraine, and all that's just a little cringe. She's also all about us being hands-off in territorial disputes in the South China Sea, like Taiwan and stuff. And she also praised Fidel Castro after his death. She also said she'd make Edward Snowden a cabinet member if she was elected, which, don't get me wrong, I think what Snowden did was absolutely right. I think it was heroic. I think that he should get a full pardon and be able to come back home. But also, presidential cabinet member may not be the best place to put a guy we seriously fucked over and has spent the past few years living in Russia. Just feels like maybe not the totally best national security option available. Anyway, yeah, she didn't win again. She did, however, file petitions and raise money for recounts in Pennsylvania and Michigan because they were incredibly close between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And despite not liking either of them, she liked Donald Trump a lot less. Now she's running again in 2024 because, you know, crunchy granola Ralph Nader. And as much as I do appreciate a lot of her domestic economic and social policies, and as much as I'm like, yeah, absolutely, we should decrease defense spending and blow up, you know, fewer countries, her foreign policy and national security platforms are genuinely horrifying. As much as we don't have to worry about her getting elected president because we have a two-party system that she is not a party to, as we continue to have growing discontent with that two-party system, the risks of her Ralph Nadering and Al Gore in a future election that at this point includes Donald Trump, and if it doesn't, it probably includes a Nikki Haley or a Ron DeSantis. The consequences of that risk are not altogether small. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you are considering voting Jill Stein.